All right, everybody. So it's 3 o'clock, and welcome now to the Total Body Reset for Men, a presentation by Dr. Carolyn Dean, MD, ND, MD, medical doctor, ND, naturopathic doctor, having her gotten both of her degrees in the lovely province of Ontario, Toronto, Canada, and now with us here in the United States, Dr. Dean, known around the world. And quite literally, I've traveled with her, had the great pleasure of being in different parts of the world, and people stopping her and saying, "Aren't you Dr. Dean? Have I read your book?" And yes, you probably have read The Magnesium Miracle. She is the author of The Magnesium Miracle, as well as 50 other publications and over 100 Kindle books. And she's also got her own health education library at drcarolyndeanlive.com, where you can go and download any of her topical books for free. And of course, she is the CEO of New Capstone Incorporated, which is the formulator of all the wonderful natural health products that she talks about later today in the show. But right now, what she's committed to doing is to talking to you about your health and health education, specifically related to men. And we're so happy to have her with us today. Dr. Dean, welcome.
Thank you, Ginny. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get right into this. The next slide, what interrupts men's health? These are the obvious things: heart disease, high blood pressure, obesity, diabetes, prostatitis, colon cancer, and more, of course. So yes, I can list these diagnoses, but what is the lead up? What are the causes? Job stress. Look at the quarantine and the income problems, all the various mandates that have been ramped up to the max these past 2 years. That's huge. The family stress, again, ramped up. And what is social media doing to your children? A friend just the other day said his young teen was being asked by boys at school to send them nude pictures of her. How does a dad cope with that? I mean, this is real. Next, do you have any energy left over after all that? Are you able to exercise, which is important, but you don't have the time or the energy, and you don't have time to eat well, so you gain weight, you have blood sugar elevation. And how do you cope? Most people, and a lot of men will self-medicate with coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, drugs, leading to general toxicity. So we know all this. So in the next slide, in the book, The Total Body Reset for Men, that you see there on the slide, I wanted to answer some of these questions, but I had a lot of trouble getting going on a book for men, a health book for men. And that's why we have all these guest authors. The chapters on anti-aging have Greg, Bert, and Michael. And we talk about RNA drops a lot, RNA reset drops on our radio shows. But it turns out that many of the guest contributors to the book, they felt that the RNA reset drops really helped open them up to sort of discovering the benefits of a healthy lifestyle and using our Completement formulas. Ben, Fredo, and Jack are on about exercise for health, and a lot of them experience magnesium deficiency, and our ReMag helped them out. Our own Dr. Taylor Wallace, he's our head of research. We're doing university studies on, starting with magnesium, but on all our products eventually. So he writes a standalone chapter on his experience with discovering the importance of magnesium and writing about it and doing other research with us on magnesium. Our latest study is on cyclists and how their bodies respond to ReMag. The chapter on heart disease with Kevin and Roman is pretty eye-opening. Kevin started doing hot yoga and found that his heart started to go into arrhythmia. And we said it was because his electrolytes, especially his magnesium, were depleted. And with the weight loss and diet chapter, James talks about his intermittent fasting and how he lost over 100 pounds just with setting his mind to the goal, but then having the Completement formulas. Actually, James and Greg and Jason were on our radio show just recently, guests talking about Total Body Reset for Men. And James said that if he had it to do over again, which of course he hopes he never has to lose weight again because he stays stable. If he had to do it over again, he'd start with the Completement formulas and not just try to do mind over matter. I have a sexual health chapter. I have a mental health chapter with Jason and Roman, and a cancer chapter. Not a cancer specialist by any stretch, but I had to address that. So what I realized, as I said, when I was writing the book, I just didn't have the words myself. But with the help of our friends, our male customers, their input really sort of tied the knot on this book. And I learned something. Now, this is a vast generalization, but I think our male customers want to see results before they dive into our program, whereas our female customers often start our formulas intuitively and then they guide the way for the rest of the family. And here's an example that just came in last week. Janet, who's a nurse practitioner customer, has been using our products for over a year and getting great results for her thyroid condition. So she called Julie at customer service, and Julie said Janet wanted to express her overflowing excitement about Flora Refresh. Her husband had shingles, which looked like bug bites, and that was a few days ago. They sprayed on the Flora Refresh, and within an hour, they began to see the skin lesions getting better. The healing is advancing quickly, and there's no more itching and irritation. Plus, the swelling has gone down. Her husband is now fully convinced that he does not need the antiviral medication that his doctor said he needed, and that Dr. Dean's minerals are the answer. So he saw a result, and now I'm sure he's bought into the protocol. It won't be hard for Janet to get him to take our other formulas. And I noticed Adele on the chat right now said, "I'm listening for my husband." So it takes a village. It takes a family to get this done. In the next slide, just to follow up, who takes dietary supplements? Athletes, men in an emergency health crisis, men who are chronically sick, and partners of RNA Reset customers. And they're happy to be there. The next slide. So what's the alternative if people don't get on a health protocol? There's a downward spiral that seems inevitable. In the next slide, once again, just the list of the downward spirals that occur with heart disease and diabetes and prostate problems and colon cancer. So we'll look at several of these. The downward spiral, you start with symptoms, you get treated with medications, and even so, the doctors indicate that there's no cure, but that things will just get worse. And a perfect example is in the next slide. I've talked about this many, many, many times, the downward spiral of heart disease. You're under stress, you go for a regular checkup, and your blood pressure is a bit elevated. I mean, white coat syndrome is very real. Or you could have been sitting for half an hour or longer waiting for your appointment and just getting more and more, irritated. So your blood pressure will reflect that. And the nurse practitioner or the nurse or just the technician says, well, you've had this blood pressure elevated a few times. I'll tell the doctor. And the doctor talks you into taking a blood pressure medication. It's usually a diuretic. A diuretic is a water pill. It does not just take water out of your body to, quote, relieve the pressure. It takes out minerals as well, especially magnesium. So you're on this diuretic, you're losing magnesium, you go back after a month and your doctor says, oh, your blood pressure is even higher. And it's going to be higher because your magnesium is lower. And the doctor says, oh, we caught your blood pressure just in time. Here's 2 more medications. So you're put on a calcium channel blocker, maybe an ACE inhibitor, maybe a stronger diuretic. After 3 months, you come back to make sure these drugs aren't affecting your liver because the doctor knows that's a possible problem. But it shows that you have elevated cholesterol and sugar, elevated sugar, which you never had before. And these are not recognized as side effects of the drugs. The doctor just said, oh, we caught your cholesterol problem. We caught your diabetes problem. You're put on several more drugs, statins for your cholesterol, metformin for your blood sugar. And what do? They cause worsening magnesium deficiency to the point that you can start getting atrial fibrillation. And then you're put on blood thinners, and the doctor will say, there's no other treatment. You may ask, oh, I heard magnesium can help. No, 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 no. If you don't take these medications, you'll just die sooner. Heart failure and stroke. So what's the treatment? Next slide. We'll go into very basic overview here of what I recommend. Take Remag, take Pico Silver, take Whole C ReSet, take Remite and Realign. Now, I'm not diagnosing your condition. I'm not prescribing these formulas. I'm just recommending that this is what I would use. And I don't tell people that they first have to diet and lose weight and exercise, because that will come as you feel better with the minerals that your body's been lacking. You first need to have more energy. You need to be able to sleep. You need your muscles to relax. You need to get rid of that constant headache. And I realized I had to make our protocols very easy to follow, because that's what people asked me for. And this is my story. In 2008, at the time of the last financial crash, and before I had a dietary supplement company at all, I was just putting out more and more words recommending what to do to stay healthy, and the diet, lose weight, exercise, lower your stress levels. But people began to tell me that they didn't have time to read any more words, but trusted that I could give them the right supplement advice. And the long story short, in order to give people what I would take and trust, I had to start my own dietary supplement company, because I saw the problems within the dietary supplement company being taken over by drug companies using synthetic vitamins and dirt minerals. So I knew that it was important to get well absorbed natural sources for these formulas. So the next slide, jump into the downward spiral of diabetes. We've got sugar intake increasing and overwhelming insulin production. You get insulin resistance, you get weight gain and more insulin resistance, and the pre-diabetic blood tests start showing up, and your doctor gives you metformin and really doesn't go into diet intervention, because the way to control your blood sugar is to not eat sugar. However, your blood sugar and your hemoglobin A1C is getting elevated. And what does the doctor say? Well, let's add insulin injection. So, I mean, how is this happening? You're sitting at your computer snacking all day with no exercise, and it has caused a big problem for a large segment of the population. My proof was when I noticed that in India, when they began to be the tech center and customer service center for internet commerce, the incidence of diabetes skyrocketed. The prevalence of diabetes has more than doubled for men in India. 10 years ago, it was 3.7%, and now it's 9.1%. So what's the treatment? We'll go to the next slide. Stop sugar, start intermittent fasting, and you can read the James chapter in the book. So as he describes how he solved his pre-diabetic and overweight problem. Take your Remag and your Remite and your Realign. In our medical textbooks, diabetes, one of the signs is low magnesium. Now, I doubt if any doctors ever said that to any of our listeners, but a sign of diabetes is low magnesium. And, maybe I'll just interject here. Doctors don't recommend magnesium because they think it's a laxative. They've heard enough times when they tell their patients to take magnesium for this and that, and the patient says, well, it gave me the runs. And so they stop recommending it. And that's because the first studies using magnesium, and actually for probably 20 years or so, what was used in the magnesium studies was magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is only 4% absorbed. The rest goes through the intestines and becomes a laxative. And the reason the researchers used magnesium oxide is they were given free samples, the thousands of bottles of magnesium oxide to do their research, so that everybody, the doctors said to their patients after the study showed good results, and yes, even 4% of magnesium will show good results. They told their patients to go out and get magnesium oxide. Now, we've turned that around completely, because our Remag is fully absorbed at the cellular level, because it is a stabilized ion of magnesium, does not bind back up to the chloride or anything else in the bloodstream. It stays as a stable ion, which is in a picometer size, which is the exact size of the cell mineral ion channels. And we've proved that in our first university study, that the Remag ions stay stable over time, and they are at a picometer size. So that's why we can say to everybody that by taking Remag, taking Remite with your other 12 trace minerals, taking Realign, which is our detox mineral to take out the trash, that's why we can say to people, if you stop sugar, do some intermittent fasting, and take these minerals and this Realign, which is a B vitamin and 2 amino acids, that you can start getting on top of on top of your diabetes and on top of your blood sugar. The next slide, actually, I have a few slides on prostatitis because there's not enough attention paid to it. There's a downward spiral with this condition as well. They say it's an autoimmune disease, but I've narrowed down the causes of an autoimmune disease to magnesium deficiency and yeast overgrowth. It has pelvic floor muscle spasms as part of the symptoms, which I say is a magnesium deficiency. It's worse with stress, which to me aggravates and causes magnesium deficiency. They play back and forth. The bacterial prostatitis that can happen can be due to bladder infections, bladder stones, having to use a urinary catheter during surgery or for prostate biopsy, for example. So that's a singular cause of prostatitis. Prostate stones can occur, and that can be from a magnesium deficiency as well. One of the symptoms of urinary retention can cause pain and spasms. And the more symptoms you have of prostatitis, the more treatment you're given with antibiotics. In the next slide, the symptoms, I've mentioned a few. There's painful urination, painful ejaculation, urinary urgency, urinary frequency, and waking up often at night to urinate. In the next slide, if the symptoms get chronic, the symptoms I already mentioned just get worse. There's weak or interrupted urine streams. Doctors can think that you have benign prostate hypertrophy, which is an enlarged prostate that can mimic some of the symptoms of prostatitis, but there's a lot of pain. There's lower abdominal pain, even lower back pain. So it's important to know these symptoms and then to know what to do about those symptoms. The next slide, I mentioned again the medical treatment of prostatitis. Lots of antibiotics are given, which gives you more yeast overgrowth, which, as I said, is part of the autoimmune nature that can be driving prostatitis itself, and which I think is one of the main factors in creating prostatitis. Chronic prostatitis is regarded as an incurable disease that's difficult to treat because the area is inaccessible to antibiotics. That's why they use high doses and lots of antibiotics. The tissue becomes thick and hard. It remains inflamed, and the blood supply is pretty much cut off. And as I said, the antibiotics just increase the symptoms of yeast overgrowth. Maybe I should just say a word about yeast overgrowth here. Yeast is naturally in our lower intestines. When we eat a lot of sugar, when we have stress, when we take any form of steroid medication, the yeast can overgrow and kind of crawl up into the small intestine, crawl down around the anus, affect all organs in the body, either locally or with yeast toxins. So the prostate, when it gets inflamed, and as I said, a person is eating a lot of sugar or taking antibiotics to kill off the good and bad bacteria, actually that's the main cause of yeast overgrowth. Then the different soft organ tissues in the body will grow yeast. So prostate is just sitting there ready to be invaded. And what do I consider the proper treatment of prostatitis? excuse me, recognizing yeast overgrowth, follow a yeast-free diet, avoiding sugar, gluten, and dairy, using our yeast management with Flora Revive, which is an antifungal and probiotic, and our Pico Silver, along with Pico Zinc. So recognizing yeast overgrowth, what I would do is direct you to my yeast book, Reset the Yeast Connection. It's a free ebook at drcarolyndeanlive.com. You can fill out the yeast questionnaire and see if you fall into the category of, mild, moderate, or severe yeast overgrowth. But if you have prostate symptoms, then to me, it's definitely yeast overgrowth along with mineral deficiencies. So that's the treatment. I do write more, of course, in the reset. What is it? Reset for Men, Total Body Reset for Men book. Too many books. I go into more details, but then for yeast itself, you can go to Reset the Yeast Connection. And the next slide. Now, I'm in no way a cancer doctor, but it's a topic that I do address in the book, Total Body Reset for Men. And of course, prevention is the best approach. So I'll talk more about prevention rather than saying much of anything about treatment. For colon cancer, you want to get regular colonoscopies. They can remove the polyps that become irritated over time. If you've got a polyp sticking out like a little finger out of the side wall of your intestines, and you're pushing food through and bowel movements through, you're going to be scraping that polyp, and that regular injury to the polyp can lead to abnormal cells, which can become colon cancer. It's a mechanical injury. It's not like your body turning against you. It's a mechanical injury, and you can get a colonoscopy. They can remove the polyps during the colonoscopy, and boom, you're cancer free. It's one of the most important preventative routines that you can follow. For lung cancer, of course, just don't smoke or stop the smoking. In terms of the quote treatment, if people have cancer, I really do focus on the conflict of disease, the conflict basis of disease, total biology. I do make a referral to a doctor who does work with cancer patients and helps people decide on treatment and helps find the conflict that is or can be the cause of triggering the body to make extra cells. The body, in total biology, we learn the body will take on a conflict at the physical level and try to create cells to solve a conflict. And the next slide, this is now getting into the introduction of starting your own health journey. The following slide after that is our reset protocol. Ginny, I'll be calling on her to go into the details because she's the one that trains the customer service people in the reset protocols and to help people follow them and give our feedback for people who have questions about how to follow our protocols. So a reset protocol, hydration, minerals, vitamins, and as I was mentioning, total biology. And maybe I'll just say a few words about total biology. It's a complex basis of disease, as I said. So sometimes a stressful conflict in life can manifest as symptoms in the body. It's not the body attacking or turning against you. It's the body trying to solve a problem. your pain in your neck can actually be someone who's a pain in the neck in your life. And I do talk about total biology of the prostate in the book and give the name of doctor who does telephone consults to help a person identify conflict once it's out in the open, where it can be resolved. And the example, the brilliant example about total biology and its cousin, German New Medicine, is the founder of German New Medicine, a Dr. Gerd Hammer. He discovered this conflict basis of disease when his only son was fatally wounded by a gunshot by somebody in the royal family in Europe. So he couldn't get to the perpetrator. He sat at his son's bedside for 3 months and watched him die. He couldn't do anything about it. And 3 months after his son died, so 6 months after the shooting, Dr. Hammer, who's an oncologist, a cancer doctor, and a psychiatrist, developed uh, uh, he developed cancer of the testicular cancer. I'm thinking of prostate too much, but it was his testicles which produced sperm. He developed cancer in his testicles, and his wife developed ovarian cancer, which is where the egg is formed. So the sperm and the egg functions of both the parents were cancerous, which means they had extra cells just growing rampant. And Dr. Hammer, he said, this is no coincidence. He went to his patient files of his cancer patients, and he found that every one of them had an irresolvable conflict, some major stress in their life that they felt they couldn't resolve before their cancer developed. So he began to talk about, as I've tried to lay out, if you have a conflict and your mind can't solve the problem, your body will take over, create cells to try to solve the problem. And then we in allopathic medicine call those cells cancerous. Whereas what I've seen with various cancers with my total biology teacher, breast cancer resolves when a person realizes the conflict related to their breast, which is trying to nurture somebody, and then the nurturing of someone who's in a fatal condition, or trying to nurture someone who's turns against you, then the breast can react. So it's quite fascinating, and it's a realm that we do want people to look at so that they can have a broader knowledge of what's causing disease in the body. So I'm going to call on Ginny. She'll go over the slides about the different formulas, our ReSet protocol, and maybe before that get to questions on the chat line. So over to you, Ginny.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Dr. Dean. Also, yes, let's do a couple questions, because it's interesting that the questions that have been coming up have basically been related to what do you think about certain drugs instead of, say, magnesium and some of the things that you've outlined. For example, one of them was a question from one of our new listeners who was absolutely able to find us through Dr. Hotze. He listened through Dr. Hotze. He says, what do you think about arterosil? Arterosil, Arterosil, for heart health. I hadn't heard of it. It looks like it might be a drug. I know you usually look those things up. And then another one was, can finasteride be an effective drug for prostatitis?
Right. So let's look arterosil. See if my So it's sending me to something strange here. I've been watching too many YouTubes. It brought me to YouTube. Artrocell. It looks like a supplement. It's $100 bottle of and it's selling on Amazon. 60 capsules for $100, and it's got a proprietary blend, so they're not going to tell you much, of green seaweed, grapeseed fruit, green tea, tomato, carrots, grapefruit. Seriously. So you have to take 2 capsules for a dose. Or let me so yes, we look up these things because in customer service people are that's very common. People say, well, what about this? Well, it's a bunch of it's a bunch of vegetables and fruits. It does not even say it's organic, so you have no idea what else is in there. And 900 milligrams, it's like it's a speck of each of these things. So when you take something like this, it's more of a placebo, where you think, I've paid $100 for this, it's going to help. And it likely does not have any amount of magnesium in it because it's a magnesium deficiency that creates heart problems. So I would say a big thumbs down on that. What's the second one, Ginny?
Sorry, the second one, yep, is I'm trying to look at how to spell it. Finasteride. Finasteride?
Okay. Yeah.
Finasteride.
Finistida is so it's a supplement. It's a cosmetic somewhere in the world. It's a skincare supplement. Oh, Propecia. It's a generic Propecia. Propecia, that's a prostate drug. And yeah, this was where was it? I think it was during our Monday radio show where someone said they had taken the Propecia and it had screwed up their hormones so much that they stopped it. They had symptoms, it screwed up their hormones, and they were wondering how to lower the various hormones that had been messed up. So I wouldn't recommend that either. It is a drug medication that was used at first for hair loss, and then somehow they said, oh, I think it helps prostatitis. You see, when you have a condition with an itis, that means it's an inflammation. And when you take a drug, all drugs will cause some inflammation. So it really doesn't work to take a drug that causes inflammation on an inflammatory condition.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's all I can say at this point about the generic Propecia.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. Armando typed in and he wanted to give you these accolades, Carolyn, and then ask a little bit of a question. He said, thank you, Dr. Dean. I have been taking your Remag for almost 2 years. It definitely helps with my leg cramps, but I still have the urination symptoms you've mentioned, most frequent urination daytime and once at night. I shall check out your treatment for yeast. Your magnesium product is still superior to anything I've tried. Much gratitude to you, Armando, and he's in Victoria, Canada. So thank you for those precious words.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, if you work with taking sea salt, Jenny will get into that. You know, when you drink your water with sea salt, those into your cells and pull water in afterwards. Same with our, Remag, Remite, all our minerals. They go straight into the cells, and then in order for the minerals to do their good work in the cells, they pull water behind them. So instead of having water, always leaking out your bladder or edema even, the water's in your cells doing its work and getting broken down into hydrogen and oxygen, and it's no longer water. So we find that when people do take their sea salt in their drinking water and their Remag, etc., they have less urination. Make sense, Ginny?
It does. As a matter of fact, Brian, if you could show us that next slide, that's exactly what we were going to talk about next. But Carolyn pretty much did it for me. We always want you to work with half your body weight in pounds in ounces of water every day. Sometimes in customer service, when we first tell people that, especially if you're, say, a guy, you're 6'2", you're 200 pounds, and we say half your body weight in ounces of water, they're like, wait a minute, that's 100 ounces of water. Wow. But then you're 200 pounds of human. Wow. And you really do need that much water to move things around your body, to cleanse your bladder, your gut, to cleanse your lymph, and to keep your whole brain. This is why people get headaches, to keep your heart pumping, your blood thin. The water is so critical. We already know this is a water planet, and we are water. So we really encourage you to do that, right, Carolyn?
Yeah, we're 3/4 water. And what did I say earlier about you walk in with white coat syndrome blood pressure, they put you on a diuretic. They actually tell you not to drink too much water. They tell you not to use salt. Now they're talking about table salt, which is sodium chloride. We're talking about sea salt, which has 72 minerals. So when they squish all the water out of you, you get dehydrated. You can form blood clots just by sitting on a plane and not drinking water for 8 hours. And it boggles me that doctors are so archaic that they're trying to treat high blood pressure by squishing the water out of you. It's just insane.
Chris is asking, or C Staples is asking, is there any value adding lemon to your water?
As long as you keep doing the sea salt, lemon is great too because it does have some minerals and it's a living substance. Most of our food can be dead, especially now getting into keto and certainly carnivore diet where you're not getting any life force, and that's where you really need to add your minerals.
One of the experiences I've had recently, I haven't even gotten a chance to tell Dr. Dean about. I went to a day spa the other day, and they've started carrying some of Dr. Dean's products.
Woohoo!
And she had made a beautiful drink that she gives out all her patrons now. And it is sea salted water with lemon, with Remag, Remite, and our vitamin C powder. And she had big chunks of lemon in it. It
Oh my
was the
God.
most beautiful presentation, very esoteric, very pretty. And just that beautiful pinkish color of the berry powder vitamin C drink. And it tasted so good, you guys. Find a way to definitely use all the products that we have, and find a way to use them that make your palate happy. We do, and Carolyn Courtney is live tweeting out our webinar. She's on Twitter. She's got some people asking her about the lemon water, warm lemon water, lemon juice, warm water, coffee grounds drink in the morning to help with weight loss. What do you think of? I've never heard of that, coffee grounds. Wait, have you heard of that?
Not the coffee grounds. I mean, certainly lemon juice in the morning, lemon water in the morning. It kind of squeezes on the liver a bit, and it's a well-known natural cure. But coffee grounds, I don't think so. What they're going to do is act like a laxative. And a lot of people think, you know, if you have bile flushes, certainly the only way I would agree to coffee is a coffee enema once a week. But coffee grounds are still going to have the caffeine. They're still going to give you that hyped up feeling. And, you know, no matter how many studies you read saying, oh, you know, coffee's good, you look at the source of the study and it's been funded by the coffee industry. So, and don't get hooked on stimulants because you'll get hooked. And what we'd rather you get hooked on is ReMag, which is a natural energy creator. It doesn't, you know, bang into your adrenals to give you an adrenaline stimulant, which is coffee. It gives you natural energy because the ReMag is necessary for 6 of the 8 steps in the Krebs cycle in the mitochondria in every cell in the body that makes your ATP energy. So there.
Woohoo! Okay. Real quick question, and then, well, Charles is asking, as long as we're on the sea salted water, he's saying, can you do sea salt with AFib issues, Carolyn?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to tell him to do it. I'm just saying if when I had, well, did I have my arrhythmia? I didn't have Remag when I had my arrhythmia. I got rid of it after, yeah. So when I used my Remag for a year and a half and got totally rid of my arrhythmia, I was using sea salted water. If you read our friend James DiNicolantonio, he writes a book called The Salt Fix, and he's a PhD. Um, he's a PhD heart, some sort of cardiologist uh, who writes about the heart and everything else. He loves magnesium, and he writes a book on the pros of salt. So it's being disproven all the time now. But if a person has AFib and they, oh, should I try salt because my doctor said no salt? You just start with a pinch and see how you feel. It'll taste better, you know, you'll like it, your body will crave it, et cetera, et cetera.
Very good. Excellent.
And
Okay.
let me just throw in this, and I know you have to get to
No,
your
you're fine.
slides,
We're fine.
but the thing about needing, quote, needing sea salt, you do need that sodium for your adrenal glands. If you have AFib, then you're stressed out to the max. You're stressed because you have heart symptoms. You know, you're probably on medications. You're freaking out. So your adrenal glands are taking a hit. What supports the adrenal glands? Sodium, vitamin C, magnesium, and the B vitamins. So if you don't have enough sodium, you may get into worse problems. I mean, the extreme sodium depletion with the adrenal glands is when you faint or when your blood pressure is low or when you're lying down and you get up quickly and you feel dizzy. So there.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. We've got a couple questions right here, a little bit on degenerative brain stuff, Parkinson's, and then also this idea of this special, rat study, LP7, Carolyn. I think we've talked about it before, these special combination of amino acids that were studied on rats. Let's talk a little bit about neurological disorders with magnesium, minerals, and the other products, including our omegas and other things like that. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Right. I'm sorry I don't know the rat study, so I can't comment on that. Um, yeah, let me look.
LP7 amino acid. It's
Mm-hmm.
a special amino acid, and it's supposedly been studied in rats to prevent dementia and these kinds of things. And it's basically about a low protein diet accelerating Alzheimer's, and that you could take this special
Right.
supplement. Yeah.
Well, when you look at something that's at the cellular level, you know, which is most conditions, you look at the brain with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, they look at, you know, aluminum, they look at lead, they look at all kinds of toxicity. You have an increase in Alzheimer's in in people who've taken a lot of flu shots because of the mercury that builds up. So it's a toxicity situation. Uh, and I do write about Parkinson's and where do I write about that, Ginny? Parkinson's and dementia and senility. Maybe in the Magnesium Miracle, I go into detail. And it's a matter of getting at the cellular level and giving the cell the nutrients it needs and the nutrients to help detoxify the cells. So unless you're detoxifying and unless you're treating the depletion, you can't just throw in either a drug or an amino acid and expect it to do something. In a study like this, especially in non-human studies, you can make a change, yeah, with certain things, but is it 100%? We look for every time without fail or exception, instead of saying, oh, well, we had 30% people got better, so it's a win. That's what medicine does with their drugs. They think a win is just a small percentage. But when we look at the whole cell and look at how the cell works, clean it out and pump it up and do them both at the same time. You don't have to wait and do them sequentially. So what we find is we'll just throw out our information and people take it for whatever reason, and then they'll come back and say, oh, my carotid artery is less calcified, or my mom, who was lying down for a year, got up and started doing gardening. We're not setting out and saying we're treating Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. We can't do that anyway. The FDA would shoot me in the head. But we just say we're supporting the structure and function of all the cells in the body, and with our minerals, because they're so tiny in the picometer size, they cross the blood-brain barrier. Boom. It's not this magnesium threonine that they say you need for getting into the brain. All magnesiums get into the brain to a certain point. Ours gets in 100%. So Jenny, you best go to your slides.
Okay.
Best.
Dr. Dean's on a roll today. Well, it's good. The interaction's important because these are the questions that men care about, and they do care about their health, and they care about mental health, and they care about optimizing their brain power so that they can continue to function, take care of their families, and be effective in the world. And I really respect and understand that. So thank you. Michael Gregg said, thank you, Dr. Dean. Excellent words. Perfect. Okay, let's talk about a little fun stuff. One of the things that I love to talk about, probably more than anything, except maybe Carolyn, is the RNA drops. That's in our next slide that we're going to be talking about today. And the RNA reset drops are what I would call, and I can say this because I'm not a doctor, I just call them a vibrational or an energy medicine, similar to a homeopathic kind of a formula. Every batch has built on itself from the beginning. I think now they're on generation 170 or something of that nature. So the smallest part of the very beginning is included in the whole. And that is just like us. We are fractal, micro, tiny atoms, ions, protons, neurons, electrons. That's who we are. And then we become this amazing flesh and bone kind of thing. And that's what the RNA drops do, is they really bring us back to our core, the basis of the wonder of who we are, in that universal place that we are, where we're connected to all things, because the drops are connected to all things. And they bring us back into that core, that centering position. RNA drops definitely help people receive a sense of detachment, a kind of a bliss, an empowerment of confidence or joy, where it's just like, I got this. They have been seen to me by my own eyes, in myself, my family, my husband, and my peer group, many of whom have been taking the drops for many years, to have a longevity effect. I mean, I do not recognize or see people as aging to the degree that maybe some of my other friends who do not use these products are experiencing aging right now, especially since we've all moved into our 60s. And the acceleration is there for a lot of people because their bodies and their minds are not prepared to navigate through this new environment, but ours are. And so we're really thriving. I would encourage anybody who hasn't tried the RNA reset drops to try them and make a commitment to use them for a couple of years. No, I'm just kidding, but seriously, you don't take one drop and say, oh, okay, well, I don't know what that was, so forget it. It's kind of like, I am all about the more. I'm all about what's out there. I'm all about discovering what I don't already know. And that's what the drops will bring you into, is a place of discovering in yourself what you didn't know you had, the power that you are searching for, the desire that you have in your body for that completion, for that centering position. So we are making the drops available on a discount today. I certainly hope you take advantage of them. Carolyn talks a lot about the radish experiment, where we do take the barley mash, we put it in the dirt, and it blew out crops. It blows out all the flowers in my backyard. We used to sell it, but we don't make it available anymore because Carolyn's got it kind of quarantined for her own purposes to do a huge project on her organic farm out in Maui. But when we were selling it to the public and making it available, the results that people were getting in their crops were amazing. And that, to us, just proves its compatibility with who we are. We are nature, we are stardust, we are golden, and we are part of this ecosphere. And this whole realm is energized and engaged by the drops. So we encourage you to think about participating with those. In our next slide, we're going to talk about our next most favorite thing in the whole wide world, which is Remag. As you've already heard from Armando today, I mean, one of the most phenomenal products on the face of the earth. I don't know how people get along without this stuff. First of all, the form that it's in, the liquid magnesium form, you can literally pour it out of the bottle, pour it in your hand and rub it on your back and experience relief. You can't do that with a pill or a powder. It is a non-laxative magnesium. 80% of the enzyme functions in the body rely on magnesium. The Krebs cycle, making ATP, relies on magnesium. Beating your heart relies on magnesium. Using your brain relies on magnesium. Digesting your food, which a lot of people don't know, relies on magnesium. Your body needs magnesium to make the acid in your gut to coat and break down your food. Every part of our bodies rely on magnesium. Healthy teeth, healthy bones rely on magnesium. The absorption of other minerals, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin B, all rely on magnesium. It is the center spoke of a very big wheel called your body. And we encourage people to come into the fold and use Remag. And then once you're using it and you love it, Armando, I hope that you are getting the rest of your family to use it as well, because it is hands down, non-negotiably, the most important, vital thing you can do for your body for longevity, health, well-being, mental health, etc., etc. Cannot say enough about it. It's been tested, it's been studied, it's been proved, and most every Remag magnesium miracle solution testimonial that we get starts with Dr. Dean saved my life. And Remag does save people's lives. It quite literally has saved people's lives and kept their heart beating. We absolutely encourage you to make sure you've got it in your cabinet. And then if you've got some, make sure somebody that you love has some too. The other thing that we love to talk about when it comes to men's health is Remag's best friend in our next slide, Pico Potassium. And boy, it is so funny that potassium and magnesium deficiency symptoms are kind of like twin flames. They beat each other's hearts. The heart muscle, all your body muscles, your nerves, your sleep, your mood, they all are simpatico, magnesium, potassium, magnesium, potassium. You don't need as much magnesium as you need potassium. There's potassium that's more readily available in food, so people don't think of supplementing. But unfortunately, the way the food is today, the potassium isn't that great in the numbers that it used to be. And also, people don't eat natural whole foods the way they used to. You need about 12 servings of vegetables a day in order to get enough potassium. And you'd have to throw in, for sure, a baked potato, which is the highest amount of potassium, or a banana, which is the second highest amount, or apricots. And unless you're looking for a delicious, nutritious meal of bananas, baked potatoes, and apricots, pico potassium is the next best thing. And it's great because it's concentrated just like Remag, and it's great because you can take as much as you want or as little as you want, and it's great because you can put it right on your body, just like with Remag. And it's great because it has a very easy taste to work with. You can just dump some in your water, juice, or smoothie. It mixes beautifully with our other minerals. These can all be combined together, but it is going to give you a nice boost. And people for sure who are on keto, paleo, or any kind of a carnivore diet, you've got to have pico potassium. You've just got to have it. I love the comments on the chat line. I will never stop taking Remag. Remag rocks. Remag is phenomenal. And so is pico potassium. And all of our products are. But yes, I love shouts for Remag. I agree completely. In our next slide, one of the things that we talk about for men's health is realign. And when you read the book, which I hope you do, and it's so precious because the stories that are in the book are written by the men who live the stories. And I think it's kind of like a guy's locker room. It's kind of like guys talking to guys about guy stuff. And one of the people who's a huge advocate for Realign, Jack McClinton, is one of our athletes. He's an NBA, former Dallas Mavericks player. He understands the value of the detox part of Realign and also the relationship with vitamin B and magnesium for that extra boost. He loves the B12 part of it. He recommends it to his friends who are partying because it's actually going to suppress alcohol absorption and cause that prevention for the liver. I always tell my social media team, I'm like, take a picture of Red Bull, take a picture of Realign, put them together, and then tell people that Red Bull is Realign is Red Bull without all the crap in it. Because, oh, did I say crap? I'm sorry. Because the sugar, the food coloring, and everything that's in Red Bull is no bueno. But Realign has the B12s and the taurine and the B6 and the B5 that Red Bull has become famous for. So Realign, a much better choice. I say it's a hug for your liver. I just absolutely, completely, and totally love Realign. I love one of the comments on the website right now, on the chat line right now. She says, I was referred to you by health advocate in London, Donna Spence. I love your products. I am an MGUS multiple melanoma and kidney patients who went straight organic, drug-free. Remag is a lifesaver. Thank you, Melinda, for sharing your story. And that is so gratifying to know that this is the kind of difference that it's making in people's life. And Dr. Dean, I think she lost her battery for a second. She will be back, and I may read it to her again because this stuff just touches her to her core. She is a doctor, and she is so committed and interested in people's well-being. So I really am so grateful that you shared that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, and then one of our other products that we have for our men's health is Restructure, not to be confused with Ricola, but I love Restructure. And here's great things about Restructure. First of all, it does not taste like a protein powder. It's actually good. It tastes very good. It is 11 grams of protein, which is not high enough to turn into glucose. So important. People who are pounding high levels of protein, you've got to balance your protein with your timing of your protein because it can turn straight into sugar. Also, potassium, very essential for breaking down protein. So if you're a weight workout athlete and you're taking a lot of protein in, or you're using a lot of shakes and you're not adding a lot of potassium to your diet, your body really needs potassium to help metabolize that. Restructure was actually developed for heart patients. So it's wonderful because of the way it digests. It's very good on the body. It is a hybrid of 3 different kinds of protein. Yes, there's a little teeny tiny pinch of whey, but there's also pea and rice protein in it. So it's wonderful in the form of protein that it gives you. And you can mix it with anything. I mean, you can put it on your ice cream, you could make water milk, coconut milk, almond, you could have any kind of oat milk. I mean, so many, you can use dairy milk if you want to. You can put it in your coffee as a creamer. People do that. I mean, it is just so much fun. And it's got fats in it, good fats, healthy fats. It's got your omegas in it. And also the other thing is it's low carb. So you can absolutely use this as well. So restructure now coming vanilla and now also in chocolate, which is super, super, super wonderful. So so grateful that everybody's here. Carolyn is frantically texting me, telling me that her computer has died. So we're going to, I'm going to sign us out here in just a minute, not quite yet. Oh yes, and Megan's saying you can make pancakes with the restructure. So listen, we're so happy everybody's here. And the other thing that one of the things that Doug is saying is pico potassium was the final straw for so many people, and it is true. And people with bone pain also need pico potassium. They also need pico zinc, but they need pico potassium too. Armando says, I've heard testosterone levels decline as we age. Any comments on the need to keep up testosterone? Well, of course, one thing that's fantastic about magnesium is it supports testosterone. The other thing that depletes testosterone is indoor lighting. So the more sun you get, the more you're moving, the more you're moving your body, the more you're balancing your minerals, the more easy it's going to be for you to make any hormone. Hormones require minerals at its basis. So for sure, you want to keep your hormone levels high, keep your activities levels high, and stay out in that sun. Vitamin D, very important for testosterone. Weight training as well, also very good. Manny's on there saying avocado has 1,000 milligrams of potassium, so that's good. Thank you, Manny. Thank you for letting me know that. Yes, hit high intensity intermittent training, very, very good. So the webinar is being recorded. We will send you out a copy with the slide deck tomorrow so you can have it for your reference, and then please, please, please share it with your friends. One of the things we want you to do is know that we are on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we are on YouTube. And of course, it's so fun to see Courtney Hayes, our social media maven, out there tweeting away and sharing the good news and getting the comments back from all of our listeners who are there talking with her as we're presenting this webinar out to the world. And we are committed to your health journey. And as a result, we are also extending that special offer to you today, the RNA Reset Men's Product Bundle here, Restructure Vanilla, Pico Potassium, Realign, the RNA Reset Drops, and Remag, all coming to you at a discount, 15%, mix or match any number of those products that you feel that you'd like to try. And again, I'm super anxious and hopeful that you will try the RNA drops as well as our other products. Let's just see if we have any last minute. We want you to go to the men's-health page where you'll learn more about that discount code and how to get into that product offer as well. We're so glad that you were here today. And let's see what else we have before we wrap it up and say bye-bye. Oh my gosh, so many good things. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And yes, thank you so much. Stay with us, stay on your journey with us, reach out if you need support, touch us on social media, touch base with us on social media. Use our customer support team, they're phenomenal. Many of them on the call today, Megan, Melody Rose, Corinne, thank you so much. Courtney tweeting it out, everybody, Doug, everybody here. Dr. Dean says aloha and mahalo, and we say the same to you. God bless everybody. Thank you.